Hello students, good evening. Once more I'm reading Summary of Pamela by Samuel Richardson. So just see what is Pamela or Virtue Rewarded. So Pamela or Virtue Rewarded is a novel by Samuel Richardson that tells the story of Pamela and Ruse. So here I would like to tell you that Pamela Andrews is a central character of the novel, and she's a daughter of John Andrews and Elizabeth Andrews. John Andrews is Pamela's father and Elizabeth his mother. They live in a village, and Pamela works in Bedfordshire. It's situated in England, and she works in uh, B family, and she takes care of senior lady Mrs. B. And there are two families actually. First is Andrews family, and another one is B family. In B family, Mrs. B, she is in deathbed when novel opens. Then she's in deathbed, and she has a son and daughter. Son is Mr. B, name is not given, and daughter is Mrs. Devers. She is married. And other characters, if we see, so that's a two housekeepers in two mansion, two estate, because Mr. B is a very richest person, and he's a squire, and he has two big mansion. One is in Bedfordshire, and another one is in Lincolnshire. And there are number of servants, and in Bedfordshire, Mrs. Jervis is a housekeeper, and in Lincolnshire, Mrs. Lucas is a housekeeper. But Mrs. Jarvis and Mrs. Lucas are just opposite. Mrs. Jarvis is a very kind and soft hearted, helping lady, caring lady. On the other hand, Mrs. Lucas is very cruel and very unkind and cunning lady. So here I am reading a story for you. That is, I have already read for you that Pamela or Virtue Rewarded is a novel by Samuel Richardson that tells the story of Pamela Andrews, a servant, young girl, right? Servant girl who faces moral and social challenges in 18th century England, right? So that is something about Pamela. After the death of her mistress, Pamela is caught in a precarious situation with her mistress' son, Mr. B. So, Pamela versus Mr. B, who initially expresses intentions that blur the lines of propriety. So, here in the beginning, he speaks something, and he verbally disturbs Pamela. As Pamela strives to maintain her virtue against his advances, she navigates various obstacles, including deceit and confinement. So, as she tries to save herself from Mr. B, she has to face a lot, and then she is being become confined, and she feels deceit that she is being betrayed by Mr. B, while relying on the support of friends like Mrs. Jervis. Though Mrs. Jervis is a motherly figure to Pamela, but she is very much friendly with Mrs. Jervis and Mr. Williams, the village minister. So they are very helpful to Pamela. The narrator explores themes of class, virtue, and complex dynamics of power in relationship. So here author tells the uh, themes of class, that's a different class. She is a servant and Mr. B is an honor. But then both are very different and values are different. Everything is different. So class, virtue, and the complex dynamics of power. And she is very vulnerable, and Mr. B is a very much strong, financially very strong person, right? But and he's a powerful person, but then that's how situations are changed, and then complexity of relationship here we see in this novel. Pamela's resilience and unwavering commitment to her principles eventually lead to a surprising turn of event where Mr. B proposes. So Pamela is very much resilient. She does not want to. She can never compromise with her chastity and her unwavering commitment. She is very much fixed with her commitment to her principles. Eventually situation turns and Mr. B proposes Pamela for marriage. The story evolves as a Pamela earns respect and affection from her husband and others. This is the very person Pamela is a servant, but at last she gets respect from husband and even whole relatives and neighbors and everyone. But is still contends with societal disapproval for marrying someone of a lower status, and then no status is matched, both come from just opposite status, but then they get married. So the novel concludes with Pamela finding happiness and fulfillment in her marriage, but at last Pamela is very much satisfied and she finds fulfillment, and then she's happy, illustrating the triumph of virtue. This is the key idea of the novel. What is this? That is triumph of virtue amidst adversity. That's a key idea of the novel. Pamela now not only reflects the values of its time but also raises questions about morality and the role of women in society. So, through Pamela, we come to know the status quo of women in 18th century when this novel was written by Samuel Richardson. So, making a significant work in the history of literature. So, that's a very famous work of English literature, which is published, right? We will see that first published in 1740 to 1741. This is a novel, of course, fiction, and epistolary type of plot is epistolary because developments happen through letters, right? And then time of plot early 18th century. Locale is England. Now come to the principal characters. I have already told you the principal characters. Pamela Andrews, servant girl, right? That's a Mr. B. Actually, this is hero and heroine. her master, Mrs. Jarvis, Mr. B's housekeeper, and Mrs. Lucas, the caretaker of Mr. B's country home. Okay, and Lady Davis, Mr. B's sister. These are the characters. Now come to the story. Pamela Andrews has been employed from a very young age as a servant girl of Lady B. So Lady B, in the time of Lady B, she is appointed for taking care of Lady B, senior Lady B, at her estate in Bedfordshire. So that's the first place, Bedfordshire, right? She has grown very fond of her mistress, so that she is a loving girl. So the letter to her parents telling her ladyship's death expresses her deep sorrow. So when novel opens, she writes a letter to her parents and asks about senior lady Mrs. B is has passed away. She has been passed away. Taking her hand before all the other servants, he has said that he will be a good master to Pamela for his dear mother's sake. So Mr. B says that I will not throw anyone, and I'll be like my mother, and I will take care of everyone. And then he said that he will be a good master to Pamela for his dear mother's sake, and because of mother I'll take care, and I will prove a very helpful and good person to you. And she continues faithful and diligent. So Pamela also uh, very much loving and caring after Mrs. B, senior B. Mrs. Jarvis, the housekeeper, puts in a friendly word as well as, and Pamela, not wishing to be a burden upon her poor parents, decides to remain in the service of Mr. B. So that's a Mrs. Jarvis, she's a housekeeper, puts a friendly word as well as, Pamela, not wishing to be burden upon her poor parents, decides to remain in the servant of Mr. B. But Pamela may think to leave job uh, after death of Mrs. B. But then she has to help to her parents. That's why she continues this job. But shortly, however, she begins to doubt that her intentions towards his intentions towards her are honorable. So after immediate death, like after death, she thinks that death of Mrs. B, Pamela thinks that Mr. B is very normal and uh, good good to her. But when he kisses her one day while she sits swaying in a summer house, she finds herself a quandary as to what to do. So she's stitching something, and all of a sudden, Mr. B kisses her. So she feels very much uncanny, very much awkward, and she is not able to understand what to do. Once again, she discusses the situation with good Mrs. Jarvis and decides to stay if she can share the housekeeper's bed. So she discusses this matter with Mrs. Jarvis and decides to stay if she can share the housekeeper's bed, and she requests that I would like to sleep with you. Mr. B is extremely annoyed at this turn of affairs. So Mr. B listens that she had shared this incident with Mrs. Jervis. So he tries to persuade Mrs. Jervis that Pamela is very designing creature who should be carefully watched. So in the beginning, Mr. B uh, does evil behind Pamela, and he speaks something wrong to Mrs. Jervis, and he requests that Pamela is a designing, very calculative lady, and that is why he tells Mrs. Jervis to be careful. When he learns that she is writing long letters to her parents, telling them in a great detail of false proposals and repeating her determination to keep her virtue, he has many of her letters intercepted as possible. So when he comes to know that Pamela is writing letters to her parents, long, long letters, and telling them in great detail of his false proposals and repeating her determination to keep her virtue. And she says, I cannot compromise with my virtues. And he has many of her letters. So, what Mr. B tried to read the letters. In a frightening interview with Mr. B, Pamela and Mrs. Jervis, he intimidates the housekeeper by his terrifying manner and tells Pamela to return to her former poverty. And when Mr. B becomes very cruel, he behaves very badly. And when Mrs. B and Mrs. Jervis and Pamela they meet, so they are very much nervous, they frightened, and then he intimidates the housekeepers by his terrifying manner and tells Pamela to return to her former poverty. And he is very angry and he says that you just go to your home. After talking the matter over with her friend, however, Pamela decides that Mr. B has given up his plan to ruin her and that there is no longer any reason for her to live. So she decides to leave home to leave for she is going to leave for parents. Another interview with Mr. B, however, convinces her that she should return to her parents upon the completion of some household duties entrusted her. So she says, okay, I'll be leaving to my parents after some time as I complete my tasks or responsibilities. When Mr. B discovers that she is indeed planning to leave, a furious scene follows. So then, when Mr. B for some time he thinks that she is just pretending that she will be leaving for uh, her parents, but she is very serious. Pamela is very serious, and when Mr. B comes to know that Pamela is seriously thinking to leave his home, so that in which he accuses her of pride beyond her station, so that he start he start uh, teasing Pamela, and that night he conceals himself in the closet of her room. So that night when he thinks that Pamela is leaving, so one day he hides himself in a cupboard. A fury, and then when she discovers him, She's changing her clothes. So that Pamela throws herself on the bed and falls into a fit. So as Pamela sees that he is, as she's changing her clothes, and then immediately he comes outside from the almirah. So then Pamela is faint. Pamela and Mrs. Jarvis serve notice. Then they serve notice, and despite Mr. B's threats on the other hand, his cajoling on the other, he tries to persuade Pamela. Pamela remains firm in her decision to return home. Now she is very much firm and she thinks that it's too much. Now I have to leave to my home. The housekeeper is reinstated in her position, but Pamela sets out by herself. So then finally she decides herself in the coach. Mr. B had ordered for her to return her parents. So then one person goes along with Pamela. And what she thinks is Mr. B's kindness is but designing trickery. Instead of arriving at her parents' humble home, Pamela becomes a prisoner at Mr. B's country estate, so that she is not uh, taken to her parents instead. She is taken to another state, Mr. B's another state, Lincolnshire, where the coachman has driven her. So coachman takes her to another estate. Now Mrs. Jucas, where is another caretaker is Jucas. Mrs. Jucas has none of Mrs. Jarvis' kindness of heart. She is not kind like Mrs. Jarvis. And Pamela is cruelly confined, and now Pamela has to bear a lot because Mrs. Jucas is very much cruel. It is only by clever scheming that she is able to continue sending letters to her parents. So now uh, she is very much sad and she is confined, so that she sends letters to her parents, and she is aided by Mr. Williams, the village minister. So Mr. William helps Pamela, and who smuggles her mail out of the house, so that he secretly takes her letter, and then the young man soon confesses his love for Pamela. But he is in love with Pamela and his desire to marry her. And Williams thinks that I should get married with Pamela. So Pamela refuses his offer, but she devises a plan to escape with his help. So that is why William helps Pamela. Unfortunately, Mrs. Jucas is too wily a jailer. She is very cruel, and when she suspects that the two are planning Pamela's escape, she writes to Mr. B, so that she thinks that she will go with Williams, so that as Mrs. Jucas comes to know that Pamela is thinking to leave for parents from here, she writes a letter to Mr. B, and who is still in London. Now Pamela's prosecutors, aided by his agents, contrives to have Mr. Williams thrown into jail on a trumped up charge. So in response, poor Williams is um, is victimized by Mr. B, and Mr. Williams is thrown to the jail on an allegation, right? Although her plot has been discovered, and Pamela does not allow herself to be discouraged. So that although plot is revealed, but then Pamela is still firm to leave for her parents. So that night she drops from her she drops her window into the garden. So then she jumps into the garden from the window. When she tries to escape from the garden, however, she finds the gate padlocked. So then she tries at night, she tries to leave home, but then gate is padlocked. Mrs. Ducas discovers her cringing in the woodshed. So she finds, Mrs. Ducas finds, and then from that time on, her wonders, vigilance, and cruelty increase. And then now Mrs. Ducas becomes more cruel to her. At length, Mr. B arrives and frightens Pamela still further with his threats. So he threats Pamela, but with the help of Mrs. Ducas, he attempts to force himself upon her. So Mrs. Ducas supports Mr. B, and both of them they torture Pamela. But opportunate, opportunely, Pamela is seized by fits, but then by the grace of the gods, she is seized by the fits and she is saved. Mr. B expresses his remorse and promises never to attempt to molest her again. Now, first time, Mr. B becomes serious and he says that I'm not going to torture you, I'm not going to do anything with you. Pamela now suspects that her virtue will soon be rewarded. So Pamela becomes happy and she thinks that my virtue will be rewarded. For Mr. B proposes marriage to her. So Mr. B proposes for marriage. Just as she is enjoying the thought of becoming Mrs. B, she's thinking that I'm going to become Mrs. B. An anonymous warning arrives suggesting that she beware of the sham marriage. So she is warned by someone and she is told not to influence with Mr. B, he will deceive you, and that is just sham marriage, that is just uh, for namesake. Marriage will be for namesake. Now Pamela is greatly upset, so she becomes upset, and at her request, a coach is called, and she sets out to visit her parents. And then finally she decides to go. She requests Mr. B, and Mr. B arranges one coach and she sets out for her parents. So on the way, however, letters arrive from Mr. B entreating her to return to him and offering an honorable proposal of marriage. Then first time Mr. B writes a letter to Pamela, and she's on the way and she's going to her parents, but she receives a letter from Mr. B and he requests in which he requests to come back and he's ready to get married. And first time then Pamela thinks that and Mr. B is not well, so she comes back. She returns immediately to Mr. B's hall despite all that has passed. She realizes that she is in love with Mr. B. First time Pamela discovers for herself that she is in love with Mr. B, and he in turn is delighted with her beauty and goodness. So now Mr. B really impresses with Pamela because of her goodness. She and Mr. B are married by Williams before a few witnesses. And then finally Mr. B and Pamela got married. Mr. Andrews, Pamela's father, is present. So parents came, and there is great rejoice in Andrew's household when Mr. Andrews returned and is told of his daughter's virtues and happiness it brings her. So that Mr. Andrews proudly shared in the village, he proudly shared that because of my daughter's virtues, she is married with Mr. B, and he is very happy. Pamela readily adapts herself to her new role as the wife of gentleman, and Pamela is ready to play another role as a wife of square. And with typical virtue, she quickly forgives Mrs. Ducas for her former ill treatment, and she forgets all ill treatment were done by Mrs. Ducas. And the only flaw in her married state is Lady Davers. Lady Davers is Mr. B's elder sister, and she creates problem to Pamela, Mr. B's sister. She is angry with her brother because of his marriage to a servant girl, and that's why she's not ready to accept Mrs. Davis. And Pamela is only alone. So one day when Pamela is alone, when Lady Davis arrives and she insults Pamela first of all, and who flees to her husband for consolation, and she allegates Pamela, and a terrible scene takes place between Mr. B and Lady Davis. So then brother sister have had a fight, and that's argument, big argument. But Pamela soon wins the love and respect of good woman who, when she shows her the letters she wrote about her earlier sufferings. So then Pamela, because of her nature, she makes her sister-in-law, Mrs. Davis, happy. So one day, Mr. B tells Pamela of a previous love affair with Sally Godfrey. Sally Godfrey is the girlfriend, had been a girlfriend of Mr. B, and takes her to see his daughter who had, and they have an illicit daughter placed in a boarding school of neighborhood. So he tells, Mr. B shares this message to Pamela. So Pamela likes the little girl and asks to have the pretty child under her care at a for future time. So she does not react. She is on the contrary very happy, and she says that bring that pretty girl, I'll take care. So Mr. and Mrs. Andrews are pleased with Pamela's accounts of her happiness and of Mr. B's goodness of her. Mr. Parents of Pamela's parents are very happy, and then he gives the old people a substantial gift of money. So then Mr. B gives money to Andrew families and other families, and thus enables them to set themselves up in a small but comfortable businesses. And then he gives job to parents, Pamela's parent. And here Lady Davis correspondence with Pamela continues at great length, and she increasingly expresses her approval of Pamela's virtues and her disgust with her brother's attempts to dishonor her. And then she tortures, but during a visit, she pays the young couple, Mr. B, and expresses his regret for his early unmannerly conduct towards the one who has become his dearly beloved wife. So that when Mr. B comes to know that my sister is misbehaving with my wife, so he becomes annoyed. But B's uncle, Sir Jacob Swinford, visits his nephew and he is prepared to detest the inferior creature Mr. B had married. So then he comes to know that my Mr. B has got married because of Pamela's charms, beauty, and virtue. However, win his heart completely, and the grumpy old man leaves full of praises for his lovely niece, so that he also becomes happy. At last, Mr. B and Pamela decide to leave the country and return to London. So then they come from village, they come to London, and although her husband is still as attentive and thoughtful as ever, Pamela begins to suspect that he might be having an affair with another woman. She is particularly distressed that she cannot accompany him to the theatre and other places of amusement as she is about to have a child. So then, when life starts, they go for movie here and there, but Pamela thinks that Pamela cannot go here and there because she is bearing a child. And then the scene of the christening of their son is joyful. In addition to the family, tenants from estate arrive to express their joy that Mr. B now has a son and heir. Now Mr. B is a father. He becomes father. Nevertheless, Pamela's suspicion, after all, are justified. An anonymous note informs her that the business trip Mr. B had taken was really reality a journey to a neighboring city with a countess and whom he is saving an affair. Pamela controls her passions, and when Mr. B returns, he is so overcome by this further evidence of her kindness and understanding. But Pamela does not, that he begs her forgiveness and promises to remain faithful her from the day on. So then Pamela comes to know that Mr. B has another relation, but then onwards he promises to Pamela that he'll be honest always. And Pamela makes good use of letters she had written to Lady Davers during this trying period by sending them to the Countess, hoping that she might learn from them and turn away from the path of license. True to her earlier wish, Pamela decides to take Sally Godfrey's child and bring her up as a sister for her own son. So she treats Godfrey's Miss Goodwin. Her name is Miss Goodwin. So Pamela treats her like a daughter, and Billy and is faithful to his resolve to devote herself only to his wife. And she thinks that I'm wife, I have to do all duties as a wife, and he spends remainder of days and admiring, praising her virtues. And then Mr. B feels very lucky herself as he has got a very good wife, virtuous wife. So his story ends. Thank you so much. God bless you.